Hi, it's good to be back to 121 and tell you a little bit about Lithium Australia. An investment in Lithium Australia really is an ESG investment in the battery industry. It's all about environmental management and it's all about sustainability. We initially had a look at the industry and had a look at the transitions from one section of the industry to another and what happens at those transitions, and could those transitions be improved by applying much better technology. So what we did was create a company that to some extent mimics those transitions in the industry and creates the circular economy. We have 4 divisions: raw materials, which is exploration and resource development; lithium chemicals, which is the development of extraction technologies, and they feed seamlessly into the production of battery products. Battery products, of course, are then utilised. They go past their end of life and have to be recycled. We've taken over EnviroStream, Australia's only lithium-ion battery recycler, to give effect to the recycling of lithium-ion batteries. This is what the company looks like. We own 100% of most of the divisions, 50% of SiLeach Australia, which is battery marketing division, marketing energy storage products into the market in Australia, and 90% of EnviroStream, which is the recycling division. So in putting together these technologies, what we've done is tried to shorten the supply chain. We've produced a number of compatible technologies that run seamlessly from one sector of the industry to the next, and provided much greater efficiency in doing that, and the ability to deliver straight into cathode powder manufacturer. We are, of course, as I mentioned, Australia's only recycler of lithium-ion batteries, and that, of course, prevents toxic material going to landfill, contaminating soil and contaminating waterways, and ultimately rebirths those batteries. So they're the steps in the supply chain to create the circular economy. How do we get this to cash flow? Well, we already have an operating recycling business, EnviroStream. We hope to have that cash flow positive in the not too distant future. And similarly, we have imports of energy storage products through our 50% subsidiary, SiLeach Australia, marketing those products into the Australian industry for domestic storage, industrial and commercial applications. On top of that, there's the chemical side, which is developing SiLeach and LieNA to improve resource utilisation and sustainability. Let's just have a look at the chemical division and give you an idea of what you can achieve if you've got the right technology. This division is focused on capitalising on waste streams, and those waste streams are waste streams from mining operations, things that have already had the mining costs paid for, and as a consequence should produce very low cost feed materials. We've got a common thread with respect to these technologies, and that is moving the lithium from one sector to another as a phosphate and directly into the LFP market, being lithium ferrophosphate, an absolutely remarkable cathode powder, which I'll talk about shortly. We lead the industry in the transition from minerals to cathodes, and do that with the technologies that I've mentioned, LieNA, which is a caustic conversion process. Interesting thing about this process is it is capable of capitalising on fine material that can't be utilised by existing lithium chemical producers, and the materials that are contaminated concentrates, and the output from this process can be phosphate, hydroxide or carbonate. We prefer phosphate. It's much more efficient with respect to precipitation of the lithium. You can pull the lithium out of very low grade solutions, and it's much easier to refine, producing a purer product. SiLeach, which has been developed for recovery of lithium out of micas, and as I mentioned, all of these have a common thread, and that is lithium phosphate, which is the ideal precursor to go into lithium ferrophosphate or LFP cathode powders. So looking at what we can achieve, and initially taking LieNA and some data that was recently presented by Roskill, where they looked at feasibility studies for concentrate producers and the overall recovery rate achieved when those operations went into production. They have annotated the zone of reality and coined the term zone of fantasy. Now, the zone of fantasy is there simply because of the nature of spodumene itself. It is difficult to recover, and on crushing and grinding, because the mineral has two perfect cleavages, it tends to disintegrate and produce a lot of fine material that cannot be utilised by conventional refiners. But that's where LieNA comes in. It is a hydrometallurgical process, does not require roasting, and indeed thrives on fine material. Now, I've mentioned phosphate, and I think it's pretty important if we draw the line between nickel-bearing cathode materials, NCA and NCM, and lithium ferrophosphate, which is a different crystal structure and has much better properties under most circumstances. The major issue behind that is low energy density, but we are developing the next generation of LFP batteries at VSPC, our cathode powder producer, which is based in Brisbane, Australia. There's the plant. These are the types of materials that we can produce, and they effectively provide a shortcut from spodumene through to LFP materials. And if we have a look at what Elon Musk said on Battery Day, he said that to a large extent his business is going to LFP for anything that requires a long life cycle, and that is some of the motor vehicles and energy storage products. This is the market in China, where EV producer BYD has increased LFP production eightfold. Tesla is going to LFP for energy storage. The Tesla 3 is powered by LFP in China and now in 10 European countries. We're going to see a change in IP protection, and that will create the level playing field, which will see LFP produced much more readily outside China. SiLeach, this is our battery sales division, bringing these sorts of products into the marketplace in Australia. And when that reaches end of life, of course, we use EnviroStream Australia to solve what is a global problem. And this is how we do it.
Batteries have gifted us a world of devices, providing portable power for tools and toys, phones, tablets and laptops, electric vehicles large and small, and even energy storage for homes and industry. But where do those batteries go when they die? Sadly, most end up in landfill. In Australia, for instance, 97% of spent batteries are left to split, rot and pollute our land and waterways. Environmentally, they're a nightmare. Now though, there's a solution, and one company, EnviroStream, Australia's only mixed battery recycler, is leading the way. EnviroStream can recover and reuse nearly all of every battery it collects, separating out not just the plastics, steel, copper and aluminium, but also, importantly, the energy metals that many contain. EnviroStream specialises in the recycling of lithium-ion batteries, the ones that power all those phones, laptops, tools and electric vehicles, and leads the way in its ability to recover the active components within. That includes lithium, nickel, cobalt and manganese, all of which go towards making new batteries. Ultimately, EnviroStream's recycling technology will not only reduce mankind's global carbon footprint, but also mitigate environmental damage on many fronts. Recovering and reusing energy metals from batteries can reduce exploration and mining for new materials, protecting fragile ecosystems. Also, battery recycling helps bypass the sourcing of conflict metals from regions in which illegal mining and abuse of human rights are rife. Already, EnviroStream recycles over 600 tonnes of batteries a year, and while there's a long way to go, they're right at the forefront, making a difference, working for a cleaner, greener future.
Making a difference. This is the magnitude of the problem as we go forwards towards 2030. Today, there's only about 100,000 tonne of recycling capacity installed outside China, and by 2030 we're going to have to cope with about 2.5 million tonnes of batteries. So what is an investment in EnviroStream? It really is an ESG investment. It's backed by fantastic technology, intellectual property that has international patents. It provides the opportunity to shorten supply chains, improve the environmental footprint of the battery industry, and of course, create much better sustainability. Here's a snapshot of the company as it exists today. Market capitalisation about $33 million. Share price sitting at around 5 cents, and about $10 million in the bank. So that's where we sit today. Thank you very much for listening.